Welcome to the Wisp Mama Bear Podcast, episode 37. I'm your host, Sarah Yacoub. Today's topic, the Trump tapes. On Saturday, January 2nd, 2021, at about 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Donald Trump finally got a call with Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Between the election to when Raffensperger finally took that call, Trump tried and failed 18 times to get him on the phone. The afternoon of the 2nd, Trump finally made contact, and that call was recorded. According to reports from the Office of the Georgia Secretary of State, that tape was not to be released unless certain triggering events happened. One of those potentially triggering events was if outgoing President Trump lied about the call. Just before 8 a.m. the following morning, Trump tweeted the following: @RealDonaldTrump. I spoke to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger yesterday about Fulton County and voter fraud in Georgia. He was unwilling or unable to answer questions such as the, quote, ballots under table, close quote, scam, ballot destructions, out-of-state, quote, voters, dead voters, and more. He has no clue. At 9:27 on January 3rd, 2021, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger tweeted the following: @GA Sec of State. Quote, respectfully, President Trump, what you're saying is not true. The truth will come out. Close quote. Sure enough, the truth did come out. Not surprisingly, the hour-long conversation released to the world is ugly, unethical, and on its face, illegal. In the call, Donald rattles through debunked conspiracy theories as though repeating them enough will magically make them true. Having listened to the entire call, it is as if Donald is spinning these false narratives and propelling himself with the notion that they sound good or compelling, so he must be getting somewhere. Donald does most of the talking throughout the call. Where Raffensperger or his general counsel Ryan Germany do pipe in, they calmly and clearly debunk the lies. Throughout the call, Trump throws out every desperate thing he can think of. He appeals to Raffensperger's vanity or ego. He claims that people are laughing at or hate him. Trump calls the position of Raffensperger that of a child. Trump also tries to intimidate Raffensperger with claims that they are committing a crime and are taking, quote, big risks in not doing what he says. Trump uses the senatorial runoff election scheduled for today, January 5th, 2021, suggesting that their failure to, quote, find 11,000 votes will cost them the election and that it will be their fault if their Republican candidates lose. Trump makes what appear to be false statements about other states as an apparent attempt to apply some version of state peer pressure. At one point, Trump asked point blank if Raffensperger knows the exact breakdown in a given portion of the vote. At that point, Trump had been making assertions about a group of votes being 100% for Biden. When someone on the call points out that what Trump is saying is not true, he cools his jets for a moment and makes the inquiry. When it becomes clear that no one on the call has the exact count sitting in front of him, that which they need to establish that he's lying or inaccurate, Trump picks right back up where he left off and repeats his original assertion many more times in that call. The part that makes it so bizarre is that it is as though Trump is operating as if fooling the audience on the call is checkmate. He's operating as though truth is whatever gets established in that phone call, to the exclusion of life and the outside world in their entirety. It actually doesn't matter that no one on the phone call has the exact voter breakdown for a given subset of votes on the forefront of their memory. That data exists, it is well established, the context of those votes has been thoroughly investigated and even litigated. Listening to the conversation, though, it's as though we are in the Twilight Zone, and that missing piece is an invitation for Trump to assert whatever he wants to be true, and therefore wins. It's bizarre, but it's also delusional. Will these tapes be the end-all of Trump's cultish following? Sadly, no. Why? Because without an anchor to truth, one listening to the call would never know he's trying to extort a state official to overthrow an election. Trump walks a line by which, without knowing better, he is the victim who has been denied hundreds of thousands of rightful votes, and he just needs state officials to open their eyes to 11,780 of those votes to make it right. His supporters are not interested in a scenario by which he is the corrupt con artist. They are not interested in anything that challenges or contradicts their belief that their idol was robbed. You see, everything Trump alleges has been flushed out. Again, thoroughly investigated, and yes, even litigated. It all boils down to one giant nothing burger. Anyone looking at this honestly sees the writing on the wall, Republicans and Democrats alike. Those who could not agree on less, but who can look at this honestly, see the writing on the wall. It is those politicians still trying to exploit the gullibility and lies that still pass as truth among his base that are fueling a very dangerous fire that threatens not only our nation but her people. Trump's motives aren't a mystery here. He has raised millions of dollars off of the bogus supposition that he is a victim who was robbed of the election. As long as he keeps playing his sad violin, his supporters will keep pouring their hard-earned money into his bottomless, gluttonous well, and he's shameless enough to keep letting them do it. Trump literally left working families hanging in his refusal to actually go to bat on $2,000 checks. Instead, he personally advocated for corporate welfare like the 3 martinis lunch, and yet he still has the nerve to keep taking money from those who can least afford to give it to him. It is so morally bankrupt, and yet continues on as if there's nothing to see here. It sort of brings to mind the slimy attorney who is willing to exploit the emotional shortcomings of their client who is so angry and emotional. It brings to mind the image of the attorney who's willing to milk them for as much as they're willing to give. It's really sad, and at the heart of it, dishonest. As Republican politicians start coming out of the woodwork against Trump's illegal and unethical behavior, Republican politicians in Wisconsin like Shannon Zimmerman and Rob Stachel continue to put their head in the sand. During the election, when civilians would reach out to Shannon Zimmerman for his position on an issue, his office would tell them that Shannon would only publicly state his position if asked by the media. The arrogance. He's in the middle of election season, asking voters for their support, but refuses to answer any of their questions, take any positions publicly, or answer to anyone. The arrogance of telling people that their questions and/or concerns don't actually matter and will only be entertained if validated by the media is unreal. I don't expect either Rob or Shannon to say anything about the Trump tapes. As long as they have groups funded by the Koch brothers who pay for advertisements falsely claiming that they are leaders come election time, they never actually have to be leaders. Even former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan has issued a statement here. Quote, "It is difficult to conceive of a more anti-democratic and anti-conservative act than a federal intervention to overturn the results of state-certified elections and disenfranchise millions of Americans. It is a special day when the cowardice of our politicians make Paul Ryan a lighthouse for courage and leadership. The cowardice of local Republican representatives is telling and should not be ignored. Given their refusal to stand up for our election, our clerks and their hard work, our voters, our people, something so easy and fundamental to our democracy, why would anyone think these politicians will ever stand up for us, the people? We elect people to go to bat for us. Why do we keep electing cowards who are afraid to even step up to the plate and take a swing? Episode 38 tomorrow. See you there.